Ciao, I'm Mary Ann Esposito. Today I'm on my way to Il Giardino di mio marito, my husband Guy's vegetable garden, to pick some tomatoes. So why don't you come along with me? Because today we're making stuffed tomatoes and stuffed potatoes. Emilio, ciao.
Hi, Mary Ann. Welcome to Emilio.
Oh,
How are you?
I'm
How's
fine.
it going?
Good, good.
Boy, let's go. Boy, where have you been?
I bet you thought I was going to do this in the pasta machine. Well, surprise, surprise. I had to listen to my grandmother in order to figure out how to do this, too. So when I get up bright and early and run to the refrigerator. Ciao.
Funding for Ciao Italia is made possible by a grant from Enriqueo Cheese. For generations, the Big A, topped by an anchor, has been the symbol of our commitment to quality and consistency. Enriqueo, classic Italian cheeses. And King Arthur Flour of Norwich, Vermont, distributors of unbleached all-purpose flour. King Arthur Flour, dedicated to the pure joy of baking for 200 years.
My husband Guy has got to be one happy farmer these days because look at the basil crop that he grew for me this year. It's absolutely wonderful. And it loves sun and hot weather. And you know, there's something else that basil really loves, and that's tomatoes. And really, when you think about it, tomatoes were not known in Italy until the 16th century when they were brought there from Peru. The Italians called them pomodoro, or apple of gold. And some Italians thought of these as poisonous, and others thought that they had aphrodisiac qualities. And so this tomato stayed on the vine as an ornamental plant in Italian gardens. And well, somewhere along the late 1600s, some lucky soul must have bit into a tomato and survived. And it's really the plum tomato that the Italians use today in a lot of their cooking, especially in southern Italian cooking. And today I want to show you one of my favorite recipes using plum tomatoes. I'm going to stuff them for you. And then just as an extra little tease, I want to share with you Nonna Golasso's stuffed mashed potato recipe. So today we've got to go nella cucina, where we're cooking potatoes and tomatoes. I don't know what I would do without fresh tomatoes from my garden, especially those plum tomatoes. Now, if you don't have plum tomatoes in your garden, you can go to the grocery store and you can buy these. Because today I want to make you a dish that's called pomodori ripieni al forno, a stuffed tomato. And you have to use nice ripe plum tomatoes. So the first thing you want to do is wash and dry the tomato and then core it like I just did. And sometimes when I'm feeling really lazy, I don't even take that core out. So then you want to cut your tomato in half, lengthwise, you see. And now this is why Italians love this for cooking and for salads and other things, because plum tomatoes have very few seeds, and you see how meaty they are. So for this dish, you want to take out some of the seeds and some of the pulp. So in a bowl, just squeeze, lightly squeeze, and you see not too much is coming out of there. Not even, there's a few seeds coming out. And then after you've squeezed it like that, well then, you just want to take out some of that pulp. Just get it out, and you don't want to take out too much because you want to leave enough of a wall in the tomato. So that's about right. So let me do the other half for you. So just gently squeeze some of those seeds out, and then turn the tomato over and just scoop out that pulp. Now, don't throw this away. You want to take this pulp and even these seeds, and then you can just set it aside, you see, and then you can use that later on in either a fresh tomato sauce or you could put it in soup. So you want to cut up enough tomatoes to do, 2 per person. So I'm having 6 people for dinner, so I'm going to do 2 halves per person. So now, after you have them cut like that, well then, you may need to take just a little piece off the bottom, you see, so that they'll stand flat, because you're going to fill these. So if they're not too straight, then just take a little piece off the bottom, and then they'll stand straight. So then set them aside And if you want to salt those interiors, well, then you can do that too. But sometimes I don't do that because I don't like to use a lot of salt. So get as many tomatoes ready as you're going to use. And then, after that, you want to make a filling for this. Now, this is where you have a lot of leeway. My grandmother was very clever because often she'd use vegetables that we had in the refrigerator left over. Could be Swiss chard, could be spinach, could be broccoli. Today, I'm using broccoli. So I want about, I'd say a cup. Now, this is going to make a lot of filling. So if you don't want to use broccoli, you have something else, you can do that. And what you want to do is chop that up. And I'm using my mezzaluna. Now, what I've done here is just cooked my broccoli until it's crisp tender. I think you can almost hear that. It's not soggy at all. So get it cut up, and you want it fairly small. So this is going to give me a good cup of broccoli. And do the same with spinach or with Swiss chard or with anything else that you were using. So that looks pretty good. Now, I can put this in a bowl. Okay, that looks good. So then, get that into a bowl. Try to be a little neater than I'm being. And then to the broccoli, or to the spinach or whatever else that you're using, you want to add some cheese. And the cheese is going to help bind the broccoli into the tomato. So I've got here, this is 3/4 of a cup of provolone cheese, and it's rather salty, so I'm not going to be adding any salt to the stuffing. So you want to put the cheese in. Now, if you don't have provolone, you could use mozzarella. You could use Romano. You could use cheddar. And then to that, I want, about 2 tablespoons of parsley. So I have Italian flat leaf parsley. And a little bit of pepper. And this is coarse black pepper. So then just mix that all up. And then set that aside, because now you have to finish off the rest of the filling. And for that, you want to start in a frying pan. And you want to get your frying pan heated with a little bit of olive oil. And I'm using extra virgin olive oil. So put about, a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of olive oil in a pan. And get that heated. And while it's heating, or have ready, some garlic. Here I've got some fresh chopped garlic, and I want about, a teaspoon or a teaspoon and a half of that. I'm going to put a little more in because I like garlic. So get my spoon, and now start getting that soft. You just want to flavor the oil here. And while you're getting that soft, get out your tube of anchovy paste. If you don't have a tube, you can use a can, but I like to use this. This comes in a tube, and this makes this very easy. Then you can save the rest. You just take out what you want and save the rest for another use. So I'm going to put, when the garlic is soft, now don't burn the garlic. Get it soft. And then I'm going to add about a teaspoon or a teaspoon and a half, and now this is salty, to my mixture. And now I want to turn this down just a little bit. And all I really want to do is blend my anchovy paste with my garlic. Whoops, got to go down a little lower. Okay, just blend it in there. And then you want to add some fresh breadcrumbs. And here now, this is just stale bread that I've toasted and then pulverized either in a food processor or in a bag with a rolling pin. And so you want to put that in. If you have to use boxed breadcrumbs, do it. I just won't look. So put that in. And now all you want to do here is coat the breadcrumbs. See, you just want to flavor those breadcrumbs, and that's not going to take you very long at all. This is a really interesting way to serve tomatoes, and it's clever, and, besides having it in a salad. So there it is. And now that can go right in with our mixture. And so mix that up. And now you can begin to imagine how wonderful this will taste. And so what you need to do next is get out a dish that you've lightly greased with a little olive oil. Here's a dish that I've just put a little olive oil in the base. And now I started to stuff my tomatoes. So take your tomatoes. I'll do these 2 for you. And then get some of this stuffing, you see. And I've got enough here to do a lot of tomatoes. And then just put it in. Pack as much in as you can. And if some dribbles down the side, so what? You're going to eat that anyway. So in it goes. And now, this is great with a roast chicken or with pork, just about anything, even with fish. So there they are. And then at the end, if you want to give that another little dribble of olive oil over the top, well, you can do that too. And you can put even a little bit more cheese if you want. Where'd my cheese go? Well, here it is down here. So if you want to add a little more cheese on top, you can do that too. Now this needs to go into a 350-degree oven. And you want to cook these, I would say about 20 or 25 minutes, just until those tomatoes are soft, but not collapsed. So there you have it. I pomodori ripieni al forno. Ricordate, amici, to give those old-world tomatoes a new look. Cut them in half lengthwise and gently squeeze out some of the juice and the pulp. Then mix up some of your favorite veggies with provolone cheese or any other cheese you happen to have on hand and set it aside. Now get a skillet out and saute a little garlic in olive oil and add some anchovy paste and breadcrumbs and coat them well. Now you want to season all that with parsley and pepper and mix it with the veggie cheese combo and then set that aside. And now you can stuff those little tomato cavities with the mixture and bake them in an oiled bake dish at 350 degrees for 25 or 30 minutes or until they're nicely browned. Well, here they are, just like I promised you. And they smell absolutely delicious. And when I make those, I often make them the day ahead, so then the next day, all I have to do is go back and pop them in the oven. And notice how nice that tomato held together. Well, if you like that, you're going to like the next recipe that I'm going to have for you today, and that is my grandmother Golasso's stuffed mashed potatoes. You heard that right here. And how do you do that? Well, you start with potatoes, and here I have just some, all-purpose potatoes. But why should you have a potato just like that when you can have a potato that's dressed something like this? And I want to show you how to make these because these were a favorite not only at holiday time, but we had them very frequently on weekends or when Grandma happened to have a lot of leftovers in the refrigerator. And they were made in this shape and this shape. And I want to show you how to do that today. So here are my potatoes. And I just peeled them and they're hot. And now what you want to do is just mash them. And when I cook these, I usually cook them in the microwave because I don't want to add any extra water. You want the potato to be fairly dry. So now what you want to do is mash those. And yes, I heard you. You could do this in a food processor? Wrong. You have to do it in a bowl with a hand masher because if you did it in a food processor, you'd make the potato too fine and then you couldn't form it into the shape. So listen to me. I had to listen to my grandmother in order to figure out how to do this too. So when I do this, I like to use my old pastry blender, but you don't have to. If you don't want to use a pastry blender, well, you can use an old-fashioned potato masher, which I have also here today. But what you want to do is get those potatoes, fairly smooth. Now, don't worry if they're not absolutely smooth. It isn't going to really make much difference in this dish. So get them mashed, and I started with about 5 medium-sized potatoes, and this is going to give me about 4 cups of mashed potatoes. So all you really want to make sure you're doing is getting out any major lumps in the dish. This is also a good workout for the biceps. So keep mashing. And oftentimes, my grandmother would do this with her hands. So that looks pretty good. Maybe just a couple more mashes just to get it a little smoother. And now, after I've got these mashed, what I want to add to this is just a little bit of seasoning to give these potatoes a little flavor. So there, that looks pretty good. So now, I want to add an egg. And of course, it all depends on how many potatoes you're using as to how many eggs you're going to use and what the size of your egg is. That was a fairly small egg. But you just need enough egg to bind the potato together. So there's one egg. If I need more, I'll add it. And here is Romano cheese, and that's sheep's milk cheese. It has a very salty flavor. So I want to put about 1/3 of a cup in here. So 1/3 of a cup of cheese. And then I want to add, some butter. So a little butter goes in. And then I want to give that a nice grating of nutmeg, because she likes nutmeg. So about a teaspoon or so of nutmeg. And if you don't want to use nutmeg, well, then just leave it out. So now you got to get into this. So I just use my hands. And I want to get that all mixed up. And you see, by using your hands also, you'll know whether or not you need to add more egg to this. And I think 1 egg is going to be just enough for this mixture. So get that really well mixed. And then you're going to have to wash your hands. Then after it's well mixed, and believe me, this smells wonderful just the way it is, and you could probably just eat this and be very happy. But we have to take this one step further. So there, that's what that looks like. So now you can just set that aside. And then you want to get ready the ingredients for your stuffing, because remember, I said these are mashed potatoes that are stuffed. Well, what am I going to use for stuffing? Well, again, Grandma was very clever. And you see, she'd run to the refrigerator, and she'd find things that were left over. Very often they were vegetables like broccoli or spinach. And here I have some broccoli that's cut up. And she'd mix this all together with other things. So I want to get out my board, because today I already used the broccoli for you in the tomato dish. I'm going to use the spinach. So here's, a cup of spinach or so. And you've seen this gadget before, and you just want to cut that up fine, because you're going to put this into the potato, so it can't be very large. So cut up whatever vegetable you happen to be using, the broccoli or the spinach. Sometimes she used asparagus. She knew we hated it, and this is how she hid these vegetables. You see, she was very clever. She'd hide this in the potato. By the time we were eating it, we thought it was so good that we didn't even know that this was in there. So you want about, a cup. So I'm going to put about a cup in and save the rest of this for later. And then I want some cheese. And here I've got some, this is just mozzarella cheese that I've cubed up, very small. You see, it's in just a little dice. So that goes in. And then oftentimes there was ham. And here we have some boiled ham that's just in a small dice too. So you want about a 1/2 cup of that. So that goes in. And now, all I want to do is give that a little bit of a snipping of, let's say, fresh basil today. Oftentimes, she used parsley, she used fresh basil, she used whatever she happened to have on hand. So that goes in. And then, just want to mix that up, you see. So now there's our spinach, our ham, and our cheese. And get that well mixed. And you see how good that looks already, and that's going to really be pretty inside of our potato. So there. So I don't need that. So there we are. There's our stuffing, and here's our potato. Now, how do we put the two together? How do we stuff the mashed potato? Well, let me show you. So now I have to start on a clean board. So get out a board. And you want to make sure that you're working on a well-floured surface. That's important. So get some flour out on the board. And then get yourself a hunk of those potatoes. And you want something here about the size of a large golf ball. I don't play golf. I think this is about the right size. So get your hands floured a little bit, because this is messy now. And what you want to do is roll the potato around, you see, in your hand. She did this very fast. It was almost like lightning. I'm pretty good, but not as good. So get it in a ball shape, you see, and then put it down on your board. Now you have to make a trench. So to do that, you just go down into the center, you see, of the potato. You see that? Just go right down the center of the potato. And now you can put your filling in. So you want to put a little bit of that filling. This is why you diced everything so small, you see, so you could get a little bit in there. So just stick a little bit right in the center and push it down in. Now don't worry if some of it's going to flop out because you're not going to see this after you roll it anyway. So get it in there. And just let me wipe my hands off. And now you want to, again, with floured hands, pinch this close, sort of bring the potato close, pushing in the filling. Close it up as best as you can. And don't worry if it isn't totally closed because you're going to roll it again. So you see, looks pretty bad right now, but it's going to look a lot better. So there it is. And now you want to roll that, again, on your floured board, under the palm of your hand, into that cylinder shape that I showed you earlier. So there it is. See that? Now that's very easy to do. Now let me do one more in the pear shape, which is what we had at holiday time. So again, you're rolling it around in your hand. You see. Put it on your board, make that trench, and then get a little bit of that stuffing in there. And when we ate these, boy, we were really surprised when that spinach or that broccoli appeared. So close it up again. You're doing the same thing. And then roll it, again, under the palm of your hand. Now you can do this. You can make the pear shape now, or you can wait until you dip it in breadcrumbs. So then after it's rolled like that, so you would just stand it up on end, push it down, and form your pear shape. Clever Nona was, huh? So, I don't know, does mine look like a pear? I'm trying to get it to, as long as I don't have to make watermelons. Well, there they are, the two shapes. So now, we have to do something else to this. So let me move my board out of the way while you admire those and do the next step. Now, what we have to do is bread those. And you need some beaten egg, and you need some fresh breadcrumbs. Now, here I have just a couple eggs that I have beaten up. And here I've got breadcrumbs from stale bread that I just toasted in the oven, you see, and they're fairly dry. You don't want to use fresh bread. You want to make sure the bread is toasted. So now all you need to do is take your cylinder or your pear shape, whatever you're making, and roll it all around in that egg. Make sure that it's well coated. Now you have to be gentle with this because these are fragile. And then, you see, coat them in the breadcrumbs. Make sure that they're really well coated with the breadcrumbs. There, that was easy. And now the pear shape's a little harder to do because it's pear shape, but just roll it around. And then I reform this after I've got it in the breadcrumbs just to make sure that everyone knows it's a pear when I'm done with it. So there it is. Okay, so now you continue on like that, and I've got to wash my hands first. So after I've got my pears and my cylinders shaped like that, well, then I'm going to want to cook them in deep fat. So there they are. So continue on, use up all of your potatoes and all of your stuffing, and then when they're coated, well, then you can fry them. So now, to do that, you have to start with some vegetable oil. And here I have, this is a deep fryer that I have from home. And my grandmother didn't often use a deep fryer. She used a frying pan, but then she had to stand there and turn the potato constantly. So now you want that on very hot. You want to make sure that oil is hot. And my oil has been preheating. And then all I want to do is take these and sit them inside the strainer, you see. And now I can put them down into the hot oil. And that's going to take, a minute or so to cook. What you want is to make sure that the oil is hot enough and that the potato, the croquette, the cylinder, or the pear shape is well browned on all sides. And I think my croquette or my cylinder is cooking fine. I just need to move my pear shape around a little bit. And yes, it's starting to cook nicely. Now, if your pear is bobbing up out of the oil, you can always turn it over on its side to make sure that you're finishing the browning. So these were oftentimes served in place of anything else. We'd have this with a salad, and that was all. It was perfectly nourishing because we had everything right there encased in the mashed potato. So now, I'm really anxious for those to come up out of the oil, so I think it needs, about a minute or so to do. And then, of course, you're just going to have to use your own intuition here, trial and error, and look at them. So when you think that they're just about ready, well, then you can lift up the basket and you can drain them. And when I drain them, I like to drain them on a cookie sheet. And here I just have a cookie sheet that I've put some old paper bags that I got from the grocery store. So just cut up a paper bag, and you want them to drain even further on that before you serve them. Then you can serve them. So let me see how we're doing here. I think they look just about ready to come out, and I think I can do it. Yes, they're absolutely beautiful. And there they are. See if I can get them out. Stand that up before I get it out. Now, when you take these out, you want to make sure that you're very careful with these. Okay. There. And just very carefully take them out. And there they are. And I'm just going to pick that up very quickly for you. There's my little pear shape. And there is my cylinder. And it looks just too good to sit there. So I need to show you how nicely that serves up. And there's our filling inside, you see. I don't know if you can see that. With our spinach and the cheese and all those other neat little things in there that Grandma hid on us. And it always worked. And now, here's the one that I made in the pear shape that Grandma did at holiday time. It's just cool enough to bring over with the others that I did a little earlier for you. And now when those came to the table, either at Easter or Christmas, they had a little stem in the top made out of cinnamon stick, you see, to simulate the stem on a pear. And then very often she took either a mint leaf or a bay leaf and stuck it right in the side of the pear to give it its finishing touch. So whether you choose to have them plain or fancy, today we've made two unusual stuffed vegetables, I legumi diversi. And until I see you, nella cucina again, ciao.